right, welcome to Your Time, Your Money, the show where your time is just as valuable as your money, and we know that. We thank our listeners so much for tuning in every week, and today's no different. Welcome back.
It's a great day, and it's the middle of the summer, so we're loving it. This is we just had 4th of July, and it's feeling good. I'm feeling good. I'm feeling like I'm getting in better shape. Hitting the beach muscles.
Yeah, our marketing director got us some new digs, which is nice. Some new branded
T-shirt. Very happy.
Branded logos, which is always a good thing. So today's going to be a little switch from kind of some of the ones we've been running with guest speakers and stuff. But I thought a very timely topic. You and I discussed it.
Yeah.
And that's really just a concept that a lot of people aren't familiar with, and that's building in buffering into a portfolio. And we can go over what that means.
When you say buffering, I'm guessing right away people are like, oh, that little circle that spins when I can't have my show load on Netflix, right? Like,
or putting the wax
buffering.
On your car, your new Bronco or whatever.
No, it's buffing, not buffering.
Well, excellent. Let's get started right away. It's going to be a pretty direct episode, I think, which is good, and it's going to cover some timely topics that I think can help people in their portfolio and kind of mitigate risk a little bit. So, with that being said, let's get started. Excellent. Buffering. Let's talk about what it is, right? I mean, and really, it's reducing some of your downside risk, and there's different ways to do that. But there's actually products that are designed to protect you in the downside in a market.
Yep.
And if they're built into a portfolio, they can be a really good strategy in helping long-term growth.
Well, I feel like anyone out there that's listening, the buffering is a big word, right? And it's something they may have never heard before, but basically think of it like downside protection, right? It's just a question of how much do you want, right? Do you want a lot of protection? Do you want a little bit of protection? Do you want no protection at all? And a lot of the people that we see that we go out and talk to, they don't have any buffer in their portfolio. It's either all invested or all cash, right? And there's downsides to having both of those dichotomies in a portfolio. And I think what buffering does is it meets us in the middle. It gives us a little bit of the best of both worlds.
And why that's important, and people need to understand that there's products that specifically do that, is right, because traditionally stocks and bonds act like a seesaw.
Sure, right? Traditionally. Not right now, but traditionally.
But you run into periods of time like we're in now, which we haven't seen in decades, 40, 50 years or whatever, where both stocks and bonds are going down. We have interest rates going up, which are driving bonds down. We have obviously stock market, all the different things associated with that.
Well, there's nowhere to hide right now. The stock market's getting beat up because of inflation. The bond market's getting beat up because interest rates are going up. So it's like, well, if I sit in cash, inflation eats away at my dollar. If I go to bonds, I'm going to get beat up on my face amount. If I'm in the market, I'm going to take on a ton of volatility and a ton of risk.
Yeah. So how do we mitigate that risk? How do we bring in some alternatives that'll help protect, but still not miss out on growth, right? And the one thing for people to understand that concept of buffering is what we're trying to do is reduce, eliminate, or protect against the downside as much as possible. Right? Because from a math standpoint, if something goes down 50%, it then has to go back 100% to get back to where it was. Right? $10 goes to $5, has to go back to 10. Well, it's got to double at that point. But if it only goes down, say
$7.50, right?
or 20%, it only has to go up 25 to get back to where it was. So where you start making your money back is a lot faster if you've kind of scraped off some of that loss.
A lot of people have asked me in this climate, like, hey, should I do this transfer? Should I do this rollover? The market's down, right? And that's always the contention point is I don't want to move it because the market's down, or I don't want to move it because the market's up. Right, and there's always this like constant worry of trying to time an investment. And if you think about it, doing it over a period of time rather than trying to time an investment is critical. It's a critical takeaway, and using buffering gives us that ability.
Yeah, and we won't get into the weeds on how they buffer within the product.
You don't want to go that far.
But let's just keep it simple so a client can understand buffering. Right.
Sure.
So buffering is this world where you're setting kind of this moving slide. And that moving slide can protect up to a certain percentage down in the market. But as you move that slide down, what happens, it reduces your potential return on the upside.
Got it.
So each year, or each couple months, each quarter, whatever type of product you're using, you can pick and choose the amount of downside protection up to a certain point. And that limits the amount of upside. Right? But in limiting the upside, you're protecting a lot of that loss through that time frame. Right. So for instance, right, perhaps you find a product and it allows you to buffer 30%. Right. So what that means to the client is if the market goes down 31%, they start seeing a 1% drop in their balance at the end of that anniversary.
If I had $100,000 and I put it into a buffered product and I took the 30% down and the market went down 25%, what happens to my 100,000?
Yeah, so on the anniversary date or the maturity date, contract date, whatever it is of that vehicle that we're using to buffer with, it then credits you back up to whatever you put. So if you down 25, you get a credit back of 25 to make yourself whole.
So I wouldn't lose anything.
No, you didn't lose anything in that case because you buffered or you're protected. You bet against the market going down, so to speak, and you buffered that product. So what does that do? If your account doesn't go down to 25, now as the market rebounds, right, for the following year, you don't have to go back up 30% or whatever to get back to where you're already there, right?
Yeah.
So it's okay.
So it's easier to jump back up.
Yeah, exactly.
Got it.
Now that may come with the fact that maybe now on the upside,
You don't get as much.
the most you can get is maybe
10. Sure.
11 or 12, right?
Yeah.
But then the following term, you might say, you know what, there's not as much risk in the market today, so maybe I only want to buffer 10% risk.
Gotcha.
Right?
Makes more sense.
Yeah, and if I do that, then what happens to my upside?
I get more potential, right? So like right now, people that are going into the market using buffered products, to take a 30% down, I mean, for the market to go 30% more further down is a big drop. I mean, that's going to be pre-COVID levels, where we're right around COVID. That's a huge drop-off, whereas I think toward the end of the summer, with things slowing down, maybe we see a turn. Maybe we start to see some strength in the economy that, in a good way, that helps the market rebound a little bit.
Yeah, and there's some different products, right, obviously, that people can use. They can be in that traditional mutual fund ETF space.
Sure.
And there are companies that offer ETFs that have buffered protection. Yep. And depending on when you get into them, during the duration of them, maybe
right.
3-month or 90-day or whatever it might be, will determine how much left of protection you have, so to speak, or how much the upside potential is on that. And those are very good products to use in, say, a deferred vehicle, right. Something where you're already in an IRA space, perhaps a Roth space. Unfortunately, not a lot of those products have infiltrated the 401k, 403b space.
Yeah, and I think for the reason that there's a lot of complication of understanding, and when you get to the 401k space, there just isn't as much support. And there's a lot of 401k vendors out there where here you go, here's your plan, and you sign up and then you never see them again, right? So I would assume there's a reason for that, yep. Why they don't use them in the 401k world.
And what's important to understand in buffered products is traditionally you're tying it to an index.
Correct.
Right. So for clients and listeners that are trying to understand this buffered world, which might be new to them.
Oh, absolutely.
What you're doing is you're taking your investment and you're tying it to either the S&P, the Russell 2000, maybe
Dow,
the NASDAQ,
right?
The Euro 50, whatever it might be. And a lot of those products allow you to diversify within those vehicles.
Correct.
So you don't have to be 100% S&P. You can
break it out into 3 different investments.
Yeah, portion there, portion, mid, small, whatever it might be.
Yeah.
So, it's this concept of, hey, I'm going to work in the stock space, in the growth space, but I'm going to bring in a benefit that I would traditionally do by what? Adding bonds to a portfolio or adding some other non-correlated asset, to the portfolio.
Yeah.
This product or this space that you're in allows you to build that in as you choose each year.
I think of the visual of the cash and the market, like the aggressive market, and then in the middle is your buffered products. And depending on what type you choose, it could be a little heavier toward the aggressive. It could be a little heavier toward the conservative, just based on I want 30% down, I want 10% down.
Correct.
But it gives you choices that may not be available in a traditional portfolio.
Yeah. So, and a lot of times what'll happen is from a psychological standpoint, you'll be in a buffered product, but you'll see your balance go down.
Correct.
Right.
Like so, in real time.
In real time on your statement, you're accessing or whatever. If the market's going down, you'll see your statement going down. But where it comes in is at the maturity or the premium date or
on the contract date.
On the
right.
contract date, getting that credit coming back into your account is something you don't see in a normal investment.
Well, I'm gonna tell you right now, when the market goes down and things become difficult, that's when really good advisors go to work. And people, when I call them, they wonder sometimes. They're like, hey man, like this is a tough time. I can't believe you're calling me right now. And I'm like, yeah, this is when you go to work. But it's even better when you can deliver the news. Hey, the market's down 20% and contractually in your buffered product, you haven't lost a dime. You're still 10% away from losing anything.
Yeah.
You know, that's a really great conversation to have. It's not like an aha moment. It's more like a, hey, this is a team and we're building this portfolio for your best interest, for your needs, you know? So it's important to know that there's things out there that people can pick from.
Yeah, and in most of those, there's a short duration on them in the sense that you can change the amount of buffering or the type of buffered product that you're in
Within the year,
within the
after
year,
the year.
at the year, you know, and there's certain accounts will allow you to rate lock.
Locking in is huge.
Right. So, you know, let's go over that in a little bit and maybe continue that topic. But, you know, today's going to be more of a shorter structured session.
We just want to keep
for
it
our
simple.
clients.
Yeah, keep it simple.
With that being said, let's get into Community Spotlight.
Best time
You
of the
know,
day right
this
here.
is actually one of our favorite times. And Community Spotlight's always a chance for us to highlight a local business that's doing well, that we enjoy promoting. And today is the Cutting Corner. So the Cutting Corner, you know, Diane Martinez down there is a phenomenal hairstylist, salon owner. And the Cutting Corner is located down in 3630 Route 67 in Freehold, New York. Their phone number is 518-634-2208. For you and I, we like to keep it really short.
It's easy for
and,
me. I haven't paid for a haircut
you know,
in about 20 years, man.
yeah, well, you know, some people have the flowing locks and they need a little bit more work with it and what have you. But you know, they do accept walk-ins, but they prefer reservations if you can. You know, those appointments set, especially for women that have maybe longer, you know, things that they need to do, coloring and
Perms and all that other stuff.
Did they get perms anymore? I think we
Perms
might be
are-
dating ourselves
listen,
anymore.
No.
My mom was a hairdresser for 30 years, and setting up for a perm was like the thing. I mean, maybe not be as big anymore, or maybe I think the thing back in town is the mullet. I think the mullet's come back pretty strong. So if we look at the history of hair, the mullet and then the perm became real serious in the 80s.
Well,
so
we went through the
we
Zoom.
might get that.
We went through the Zoom mullet, business up top and casual on the bottom.
Yeah, seriously.
But anyway, once again,
the COVID
the
mullet
Cutting
there.
Corner down in Freehold, New York. Give a call to Diane Martinez down there. She'll hook you up and
Phenomenal
take
place.
care of your stuff. So excellent Community Spotlight. But yeah, so you know, just jumping back into buffered products.
Sure.
That rate lock feature that some products offer is very attractive to a client. Right.
It is.
So
It is. It's
picture them.
huge.
Yeah, and it comes into play as the market continues to
So
climb.
let's play right now. I got 100,000. Here you go, Mark. I want to buy a buffered product.
All right, and
Here
I
you
say,
go.
hey, I'm going to buffer 20% down
Okay.
because you know market's already down, but I think there might be some.
But
more
I have
movement.
worries. I'm thinking the market might go down further.
Yep, maybe another 15, 20. So I'm going to buffer 20%. Maybe that gives me a cap of 18%.
Okay.
Meaning, if I guess wrong, the market's going to go up, and I'll partake in the market up to 18%.
Got it.
Market goes up 30, I'm still only going to get 18.
So a month goes by.
Yep, month goes by. Let's say the market goes the opposite way, starts going up,
Yep.
and it's up 10%.
Perfect.
And my cap is 18. I can set in some products a rate lock at, say, a point, maybe 2 points below where the market is currently.
Got it.
So if the market then turns again and goes down, it automatically
Catches.
locks in.
Right.
And then in that case, sits in like a cash position.
So I could call you and say, hey, Mark, you know, I gave you 100. The market's up 10%. I want to lock in.
Yeah, maybe you say, I want to set a rate lock
Floor.
at 8,
Okay, good.
right? So now the market goes up from 10 to 11. Maybe you move your rate from 8 to 9.
Right?
Maybe it goes up 11 to 12. You move your rate from 9 to 10.
And this is all internally. You don't have to do any phone calls for it. It's done. It's
yeah,
already set up
and
for
then
us.
the minute it crosses that rate lock, it
We're
locks it
locked
in
in.
for the rest of the year.
Okay. Can I ever unlock it? Do I have the opportunity?
Usually not once it's in, but it depends on the product. But usually not once the rate lock is
Just
activated.
begging the question, right? 'Cause
It's
someone's probably
it's
gonna
usually
ask it.
locked in for the year. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But the benefit to that is, let's say like going into COVID, the first couple months the market was doing very well.
Oh, January and February, it was great.
Right? So if you had a rate lock feature in any investment you were in and was able to bring that floor up, so to speak,
Sure.
right? When COVID happened, it made it trigger the rate lock, and you would have not seen any volatility in that sense.
Correct.
You know what I mean? So that rate lock feature is important to understand that some products have that.
It's important because you can set it and forget it. And you don't need to worry about, oh my God, I should have done it 2 weeks ago, and now it's back to where I started. You can just set it up and say, hey, here's where I'm comfortable.
Yeah, and some of those buffered products go even further. If a client wants to build in more protection more than a couple months or a year,
Sure.
some of those products out there go 3 years, 6 years or more.
Yeah.
And in addition to that, some of those products that are 6 years, they have an uncapped potential on the upside.
Right.
So
Yeah,
not
it's
only can you
huge.
build in some buffering on the downside, you can
You
also
can earn
build
as
in,
much as you want.
yeah, you can build in kind of a mirroring of an index portfolio, but build in 10, 20%, whatever that might be, buffer on the downside.
It's a nice middle ground to someone that doesn't just want to be stocks and bonds. It's a nice middle ground, right? And there's a reason for that, right? And there's a tool. I mean, I think I try to do the analogy. You go out to your workbench and you need a tool. You got to have a hammer, a screwdriver, and a saw, because neither of those tools can do the other one's job. And the same thing if you're a baker. You need a knife, you need a crafting tool, and you need a mold, because none of the tools do the same job for the other. So to have all three, you're going to be more apt to be successful.
And where this can play in, right, is usually we have, now money, short-term money.
Sure.
Then we have later money, right? We have long-term money, and then we have never money, right?
Yep.
This is kind of that intermediate space. You know what I mean? It's that space where we may need the money,
Right.
within the next 3-5 years or so, right? We're not sure, but we don't want to take a lot of risk. We want to be able to mitigate the risk a little bit. We don't need it right now,
But we might need it down the road.
but we might need it.
Yeah.
And we don't necessarily want to cap our upside for the long-term money either,
Sure.
right? We don't want to say, all right, we're locked into 12 or 18% return, or whatever that might be on the upside, when we know we don't need it for 30 years,
Right.
right?
So we don't want to be locked, because the 30-year timeline, hopefully we're going to earn a lot more than what we're locked into. So
Yeah, so it's one of these great middle products that a lot of times advisors struggle to kind of build a portfolio on around,
Yeah.
because they want to mitigate risk, they want to make sure that they're getting a good return to keep up with inflation,
Yeah.
when the market goes up, but at the same time they say, hey, you know what? I don't know whether they're going to call me and need
Right.
it right away.
yeah, that's a big piece. I feel like flexibility is key, especially in a volatile market, and giving choices on the tools that people can use are critical.
Yeah, and working with a financial professional that deals with all the different types of buffered products is also important.
Oh, absolutely.
Right? There's some advisors that don't use them at all.
Yep.
There's some advisors that only use one subset.
I only
Maybe
use this one, right?
indexed annuity versus an ETF, or another
Sure.
product out there. And it's important to know that there's a full gambit of different buffered products that you can build into the portfolios.
It's important, again, about the education of clients, and I always go back to the shopping mall analogy, right, or the price chopper analogy. If you walked into a grocery store, would you shop in one aisle? Would you just go in and shop in one aisle?
Unless I only need one thing.
Right, and I mean, some people only need one thing, but if you're going for a full shopping on a Sunday, would you just go in and shop in one aisle? No, you're gonna need
Hopefully
the
it's
whole
not the cat
store.
food aisle.
Oh, so that's where it's like you want to have access to things that are smart for your portfolio.
So I mean, ultimately, let's just recap. The buffered space is very important to understand.
Yep.
If this is new to you as a listener, if it's new to you as a subscriber, you really contact us, contact your financial professional, and have a discussion about how a buffered portfolio or strategy can work into your existing plan.
Yep.
Right? You don't go all into any one thing. Like a diet, you need moderation, you need
You
diversification.
can't eat 50 Snickers bars a day, but you also can't eat 50 cantaloupes a day. You got to be smart.
Correct. And this buffered space is new to a lot of clients that aren't familiar with how it works and different products that are there. So a good gauge is to talk with your advisor, give us a call and say, hey, does this make sense for me?
Right.
It may or may not, but at least you know that there's an option out there.
If someone's 20 years old and they want long-term appreciation, a buffered product doesn't make a ton of sense. Right? I mean, just generally speaking, if someone is 20 years old, but their attitude is fear and they're worried about the downside, then maybe it does. But it's about the situation and it's about what someone's asking you. And knowledge is power here. So that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to empower people.
Yeah, so let's tell people where they can reach us at. You want me to do that?
Yeah, you're up for it, man. You're good at it.
All right. We're at 800-222-3202. You can reach the Esley Group at 43 British American Boulevard in Latham. Keep in mind that we do business in 22 different states. So if you're listening and you're in a different state, reach out to us. We'll see if we can help you out as well. You can reach Matt Trillo and myself as managing partners. Adam Jones is another advisor on our team as well. And you can go through our marketing director, Matt Byers, who is phenomenal at structuring client appointments, service reviews, and getting new leads onto our schedule, which is great. So once again, the Esley Group, and you can find us at yourtimeyourmoney.net. So your time, your money.
It's your time. It's
your money.